Hey everyone, welcome to Steven Universe, the show where we talk about the universe of Steven Universe. I'm your host, Victor Frost. First things first, the news. So, it's official. According to the Steven Universe blog, the show will be on hiatus until sometime this summer. The post doesn't give any specific reasons and, in fact, actively denies knowing why, but a reply via Tumblr from writer and storyboard artist Joe Johnston says that, quote, "it is inevitable," saying that the show needs time to be made and that it'll be over soon. Now, the timing of this hiatus isn't what most in the world of television would call optimal. We are right in the middle of a ratings sweeps period, which is when Nielsen, god of ratings and all that is people meters, gathers data from all 210 local markets as opposed to just the 54 electronically metered ones. They only do this 4 times a year, which is why you'll see a lot of season finales in February, May, July, and November. These are important months in the world of television, which is why I was so skeptical when I first heard that they might be doing a hiatus. It didn't make sense to me. Well, it is what it is, and one news precipitates another. Since we won't have any new episodes of Steven Universe for a while, it seems, I've decided what to do in the intervening time. On alternating weeks, I'm going to be doing 2 shows. Next week, it'll be business as usual. I'll be talking about old episodes of Steven Universe, much like I've been talking about new episodes of Steven Universe. This week, however, I'm going to be bringing you a bit further into my wheelhouse, talking to you about production techniques and ideas using Steven Universe as the framework. It'll almost be like an intro to media production class. For those of you who've been watching my channel since before I started this show, yes, it will be very much like Behind the Screens, which is why I'm going to be calling this series of episodes Steven Universe Behind the Screen. And if you're only interested in Behind the Screen and somehow stumbled onto this episode, yes, it'll be going into that playlist as well. And so it will be. 1 week behind the screen, next week in the universe of Steven Universe. Back and forth until there's a new episode of Steven Universe every week. Before we go on to the first lesson, though, it is time for me to take my medicine and pick out my punishment for being late with the episode Love Letters. You were all surprisingly eager to submit a punishment, or maybe unsurprisingly eager. In any case, I have typed them all out, and I have printed them on pieces of paper, which I have folded them in half, and I have placed them inside Jack the Calibration Stacks hat. I do not know what I will be picking out of the hat until I actually pick it out, so, here we go. I got write a cheesy love letter. 2 of you contributed that, and your odds were ever in your favor, as it were. Here, let me just pull it back out to show you, make sure everything's on the up and up. Here it is. And just so you guys know that I wasn't fooling around here. Here we go, yeah. Here is Dye Your Hair Red. Dodged a bullet with that one. So it looks like I'm going to be writing and then performing a cheesy love letter. That video will be up within the next 3 days. I know I have 7, but 3 is what I'm giving myself because that is not a hard thing to do. So there you go, there's that, and let's get on with the episode then, shall we? So the very first thing we're going to cover here is that all art, is ideas. Yeah, we're starting off pretty philosophical, but every decision made when creating a work of art, consciously or not, is done in service of a particular idea, conscious or not. That's why this is so important to understand before we can truly, honestly begin looking at how and why a particular art was produced the way it was. Unlike paintings or sculpture, film and animation, and video games as well, have the ability to take us through not just an idea, but an experience of an idea. For example, this is much less powerful and resonant as this.
Steven! Thank you!
Garnet, you're a fusion?
So how can a creator of a work of art reliably ensure that the art they create carries the messages and ideas that they want it to? Well, creators and artists have what you could call cheat codes to the human brain. See, over the course of our lives, we're exposed to thousands, if not millions, of works of art in one form or another. And over time, these different works become associated with different things or events. For example, what do you think of when you hear this music? You probably thought of a wedding, but really only if you grew up in or were exposed to Western culture. See, shared cultural knowledge like this is, much like video games, region-locked. Where we grow up and the art we consume is a very important part to how we interpret other works, because that cultural exposure is what we draw off of later on. Even though the world has been essentially turned into one region due to the internet, there are still other barriers to cultural interchangeness, such as language barriers. Entire cultural trends will be born, evolve, and die on sites like Nico Nico Doga and Yokai. And unless you speak Chinese or Japanese, you'll probably never hear about them. These bits of shared cultural knowledge allow creators like me to create and use shortcuts to ideas already in your brain. We can play with lighting, taking advantage of the interplay between light and shadow to convey internal emotions. We can use character design to tell you about a character without actually telling you about the character. And we can use music and sound effects to set the mood, emphasize actions, or bring realism or surrealism to the scene. But none of those techniques would be anywhere near as effective if we, as audience and creators, didn't share the same solid base of cultural knowledge. It's that foundation that lets creators, consciously or not, be able to effectively share their ideas through their art. And art is ideas. You see what I did there? I brought it right back around to the beginning. A booyah. And that's what we learned this week on Steven Universe Behind the Screen. Join us next week on Steven Universe when we bring it back all the way to the beginning with Gem Glow. I'm Victor Frost, and I'll see you next time on Steven Universe.